Welcome back to the Audible Angle. Trying to come in hot and fast this week. We got a lot of things to cover. We got college football playoffs. We got NFL playoff matchups finally set, ready to go. Before we get to that, we got to try to put a little bit of a bow on Week 18. We'll go over, what was interesting, what was not interesting at all. Try to get up to speed on some coaching news. If there's anything interesting there. I think we'll kind of just start off, Herbs. We got together this weekend live and in person, and we might have been stroking it a little bit at the old golf simulator, but we did catch the Carolina Panthers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Win and you're in. Win and you win the division game, right? Wasn't it? It was a big-time game scheduled by the NFL. Saturday.
Yeah, 3:30. That's what we thought. Spoiler alert, but we'll get to that spoiler alert obviously a little later in the episode. But I'll tell you what, Dilly, I felt like every game I watched on TV in Tampa, and I don't know if you felt the same, but every game I was watching at Tampa seemed like it was in a downpour. Has it rained in Tampa like 7 inches in the last 3 weeks? Again, another deluge.
Yeah, that was definitely a deluge. And I'll tell you what, it was not a deluge of offense or really exciting football. To be the Carolina Panthers and not only lose the game, but then come back and just get a ugly reverse backdoor cover, meaningless cover after the Bucs miss a field goal, add a little insult to injury for anybody that had the Bucs minus 2.5. That's the thing sometimes in these games when you're, like I said, we're at the golf simulator. You're excited for the start of the game, and then all of a sudden it's the fourth quarter, and you're like, what, did we miss the third quarter? You're like, no, nothing really happened. Just zip. I thought it was a pretty futile effort. Carolina really laid an egg. And I guess you were teasing a little bit, but spoiler alert, the Buccaneers did not control their own destiny. So we get the Carolina Panthers, and I should say, I was going to say in the beginning, we're going to try to resist the temptation of breaking down the playoff matchups because we're going to come back and do that, try to get you out of here in less than 4 hours today. But just in that game, I think the Carolina Panthers are probably who we thought they were, and that's not a very good or dangerous football team.
Yeah, to be honest, I was a Carolina Panthers against my co-host here, who was pro Bucks for obvious reasons, because you probably were one of those bad beats on the 2.5 that we're looking at different areas. We were on to bigger and better things at that point when that game wrapped up. I believe one of our faithful sponsors, Mississippi Mud / pub, however you want to look at it. But yeah, the game was kind of a slow start on a Saturday, kind of a ho-hum. I don't know how much the conditions played into it, but as we talked on that ride, you and I and Druzy talked about the ride over to the golf simulator, the Buccaneers are always going to go only far as their quarterback takes them, right? Like, is it going to be the hot version of that quarterback, or is it going to be the version where he throws it to the other team? And he had those moments, but it was an ugly game. Conditions probably hurt the Buccaneers more. They ended up winning that game. But boy, the Panthers, where they used to, I really think, Dilly, I just think that the Panthers are misusing Rico Dowdle or not using Rico Dowdle. I don't understand why Hubbard is in the game in the last 7-minute drive there. And it's on the goal line, and they got to get it in. And there's just some questionable decisions there in that game. But in the end, Buccaneers did enough. And I guess our Bears fans, which is not teasing the playoff matchup here, but like the Bears fans say, all you got to do is win. And that's what the Buccaneers did.
Yeah, you got the feeling early. Baker Mayfield had the one run for a first down, and he lowers a big shoulder from a quarterback perspective anyway, big shoulder and a defensive back, gets the first down, team's fired up. And I will just say, I think, realistically speaking, I think the Buccaneers, they're a more dangerous team for the playoffs. They had Mike Evans out for a huge chunk of the year. They had Godwin. out and then back and then out again. You know, they had some adversity during their big time losing streak, but at the end of the day, when they're at full strength, and you know they didn't play a lot of defense this year. You know, there's a lot of things missing this year, but with their full complement of receivers and Bucky Irvin, he was in and out of everything this year. You just felt like if they got in, you know, they'd probably have a better chance of putting up a fight in the playoffs. So we end up with an underwhelming Carolina Panthers team. We're going to try to run through all the games here, and you know, I don't. Without getting into the playoff matchup, I don't think there's a ton to talk about for the Panthers. You did mention the running back breakdown, but as you look at the box score, and that's probably the feeling that you got during the game, mentioning not using Rico Dowdle. You know, he had 7 carries, Hubbard had 5. So they just weren't running the ball. Now, part of that is, you know, you're down most of the game, but you know, the Buccaneers scored 16 points. It's not like you were ever down 3 touchdowns. They never even got to that point. So maybe they just, in general, got away from the run game a little too quick and couldn't establish it. And, you know, we'll see. That's their formula for winning, is running the ball, playing fairly good defense. So that's what they got to hope for. And they get a home game, which is a whole other thing. We'll talk about just the state of the NFL scheduling and playoff format. We moved into Saturday night. Now, things probably, at this point in the evening, for those of us that were partaking in a couple light beers, you know, it's another game kind of where you feel like, well, shit, how many beers did I have? Was I missing the game, or, you know, nothing happened? Now, I'm not against a good defensive struggle, but 13-3 isn't exactly, you know, we just saw the 49ers stink it up against the Bears defensively for the entire game of touchdown after touchdown. So, you know, I don't think it was stingy defense. I think it was a little bit of slow action here, and we just kind of limped our way to a 10-3 game at the half, and boy, not a lot of points after that. Game ended 13-3. What did you see in that matchup in particular? Are the Niners who we thought they were? I mean, I thought they were not that good all year, and I was probably a week or two ago, I already came around and said, I guess I was wrong, but maybe I wasn't wrong.
Yeah. 2 points. Number one, from the first game, you're right. The playoffs are going to be worse off with the Panthers in. The Buccaneers would have made the playoffs better. So I agree with that. To your point about the evening game on Saturday, to your credit and your indulgence on that night, we were at 3 taverns. We started at Mississippi Mud, we stopped in at Jersey's, and then we finished her up for dinner at B-52's, none of which are real tight to each other. So we did have 3 tavern stops in that game, and then we're able to watch the last quarter and a half. So I think we watched the first quarter at Mississippi Pub. We were driving for the second quarter and half of the third quarter, and then we resided there at the final. But I would tell you, I have personally been a fan of the 49ers. I'm still a fan of the 49ers. I think what this game was more about was that the Seahawks defense might be better than what we thought it was, right? And I don't know, let's be honest, the guy that kind of runs the 49ers success is Christian McCaffrey. It's not Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy will play well when Christian McCarthy is playing well, right? But I don't think that Brock Purdy is going to necessarily win games. Now, people are going to argue with me on that because Brock Purdy will make every pass. He will make the good passes. I mean, he's not a bad quarterback. For being the last man taken, he's a damn good quarterback, but he's not that what makes that team run. And I think that the Seahawks maybe proved more to me than I have concerns for the 49ers because of that game, because the Seahawks won a tight game. That was a good game. It was kind of a grinded out game. They showed us. I have questions about the Seahawks running game. I think you do too. In previous episodes, you've talked about that. They proved that they can win a tight game, and that's what you're going to have to do in the playoffs, and that was a playoff type game. Understanding that it was a division game, but I think we learned more about the Seahawks. I have more faith about the Seahawks. I think they're probably an underwhelming overall number one seed on the NFC side. I still think it's wide open. We'll get into that in a later episode. We're going to be teetering on that line, by the way, the entire episode. But I think it was more about the Seahawks defense than it was about the 49ers.
Well, I think it also needs to be said, and this will come up in our quick rehash of the Philadelphia Eagles decisions to outright sit everybody with a chance at the number 2 seed on the line. The Niners, I mean, they had a chance. They're at home. And, I would even say more than McCaffrey that, Purdy's success really relies on Shanahan. He is his offenses, when they have the run game going and the short passing game going, I mean, Purdy is often throwing to schemed open receivers. And that's not to take anything away from Purdy, because we see good offensive coordinators with bad quarterback play, take the blame and lose their job over it. So hats off to both of them, but I think a lot of success comes down to Shanahan. And it needs to be said that George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, they both sat this game. And I believe Shanahan implied after the game, he said that, they were very, very close. If this game was Sunday, they both probably would have played, which to me means on a close call, they sat players, knowing that, there's no guarantee where they end up or that they're going to win. And it's even for teams with a little bit of seeding on the line. It seemed to be the call for most teams was, play it safe, be healthy for the playoffs. And, they get their matchup that they're probably not too worried about, which we're not talking about, because we're not talking playoff matchups yet. But let's just say, maybe they didn't think their matchup was going to change, and if they didn't want to risk it. Even, I believe they had a potential 1 seed scenario. And I don't even think they needed the Rams to lose. But in any case, they made decisions that were on the safer side, and they look kind of ugly. And I think with these coaches that have been to the playoffs, experienced coaches, these are professionals, I really do think maybe as fans we underestimate it's a new season, clear the slate, we're in, and whether or not we're a 3 seed or 2 seed, and worry about, well, you could get a home game back in round 3, in the championship round. Maybe that's a fan and media thing more so than it is for the actual coaches. When it's a close call, you go safe in most cases. As we move down the line here into the amazing Sunday slate, early slate of games on Sunday, a lot of bangers in here. The one of note, of course, is the Falcons and Saints. How much of that game did you take in as the Falcons clinched the division for the Carolina Panthers?
Well, I hope I'm one of many fans out there that were tuning in to that game at the same time as our friendly Packers. But I was watching that because I wanted to see the Buccaneers not get a berth because of this crazy team that's literally out of the playoffs, has no chance, and can spoil a division foe, right? Like that's some good television. And it's going to get to another topic, right, that we're going to probably talk today, but the Falcons look to like the Falcons. Like they're a good football team. That doesn't surprise me that they went and beat the Saints. The Saints were a hot football team. I mean, we were kind of all surprised at their record. Maybe they should have been better. I mean, they kept winning here as of late. But boy, it was nice. I mean, they're throwing. It's nice to have a healthy Drake London. It's nice to have a on the ball Cousins, right? That is actually throwing decently, because he's good when he's good. The problem with Cousins is he's really bad when he's bad. Like it's no in between there. He's good or he's really bad. And I don't think he's ever great. I don't think he's got any great left in him. But man, when you can throw to Pitts, throw to Drake London, and then run it with Bijan, and your defense is going to keep you in every single game, the Falcons would have been a dangerous team in the playoffs, but we don't have to talk about them in the next episode. I'll tell you that. But it was fun to watch. Screw you, Baker Mayfield. Screw you, Buccaneers. Stay home.
I mean, I had to bite my lip a week or two ago. It might have been 3 weeks ago when you really brought up the Falcons as, you were asking what the deal with the Falcons was, because in your description, they had a good defense, which I think the problem with their defense is they were not above laying stinkers out there, and they had some games that were, they just get blown out of the water after a big win. That happened to them a couple times this year. And, they finished their team that, again, we're trying to go in order here, but even though 4-game winning streak, got a little lively after really stinking it up early in the year, 5-game losing streak, win 1, lose 2, then win 4 in a row, they blew the whole thing up. They blew out the coaching staff and everybody in between. So that's an interesting decision. It's not a horrible decision, I don't think, because I feel like the Falcons have been up and down this road a little bit for a while now, really since their Super Bowl appearance and letdown. They've been okay, but not good and not over the hump. And but it's a professional performance by the Falcons down the stretch, and they might have some things to build on now. Quarterback, you mentioned, Penix has knee injury history. Was he the guy even without the injury? We're unclear. Cousins, again, we're already scraping the bottom of the barrel with him. So that one becomes a real tough one to sort out. We had Colts Texans, and Texans are a playoff team. I believe heading into it, they had some kind of crazy scenario to end up winning the division, and it seemed unlikely. They're watching the scoreboard. Even if they say they're not, somebody somewhere is watching the scoreboard and sees the Jaguars in complete control. I believe they sat Nico Collins, but they played a real football game with a lot of their starters. C.J. Stroud, it was eventually Davis Mills was in there, but they were playing hard. They're a team we've talked about, and I guess we're going to find out pretty soon. I don't think they showed us really anything in the standalone game against the Colts, but they finished the deal off and got the win, and that's a hell of a long win streak heading into the playoffs. Are we equally on board, more on board, or I don't see any reason to be less on board with the Texans as we were a week or two ago?
Yeah, I think I'm just as I'm right there with it. Last episode that we talked NFL, I was talking about the Jaguars and Texans being in the AFC Championship, and I still will stand by that. Neither team made me say I don't believe in them in Week 18. I do think it's very interesting, and this is going to get to a bigger point that I think we'll flesh out a little bit today about how different coaches bring up and play different players, right? So the quarterback started the game, played the first half. They had all to play for. I do agree somebody was scoreboard watching, and that's why that starting quarterback Stroud comes out. But Davis Mills is a serviceable backup, right? And I think that's probably an easy decision. I mean, is it a big deal to be the 5 seed? Probably not. They still wanted to win that game. The Colts were no pushover because they had a under 44-year-old quarterback that's played in the last 5 years. And I am I'm a Phillip Rivers fan, and no disrespect to a regular listener of the show, but it is time that he goes back to hold the clipboard and having the headset on, right? Like that was fun to watch for 2 weeks. Kudos to him, by the way, for standing on the sidelines. He definitely could have been back home in Bama, hanging out on the ranch with the 10 kids, but I guess I also don't blame him there either for a number of reasons, 10 reasons there, to be staying on the sidelines. But I still, Dilly, I believe in there. I think Woody Marks is only going to get better through the year. He's going to have to experience playoff football now, which is a different animal. It's faster. People are playing harder. Bottom line, every year you see it. Some questions go into me for Week 18 in total, but I'll kind of pause that to answer your question, Dilly. I believe in the Texans. I believe still in the Jaguars, and they did no reason to change my mind on Sunday.
Yeah, and Jaguars, we're mentioning them. They blew them out by the second quarter. This is the Titans, so not a lot to go on there, although they clinched the division and, you know, they finished strong and they're the 3 seed. You know, I don't know. That's another one where the AFC was a little bit more, you know, matchups. What are you going to do? The matchups are nothing good, I don't think. I actually think in this, again, we're not doing the playoff preview, but I'll tell you what, I think every road team, you could make a pretty good case for each road team in this first round of the playoffs. As we go down the line, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the Packers Vikings game. Boy, that was a real stinker to watch. I do think there were some individual performances for the Packers backups and deeper than backup guys. I thought they probably, of the teams that needed a rest, they obviously needed to rest them. It would have made absolutely no sense. And it borderline didn't make sense to see a guy like Evan Williams out there. But at some point, I think the Packers were facing the fact that they need guys they need to field a team. So some guys maybe that you didn't want to see out there were out there a little bit. But, you know, you're not going to roll out Zach Tom, who's battled through multiple injuries this year. And you're going to take selective leaders out of the game. Jordan Love as a backup, that was weird to even consider. But I think the reason why they didn't activate Desmond Ridder from the practice squad is they needed that slot to activate some other people so they could rest more people. So did you have any takeaways from the Packers or the Vikings for that matter?
Couple of things that I want to bring up. And I think that there was some stand-up. I agree with you on the performances on some of those backups, and it was fun to watch them play. There was some good plays. There's a lot of mediocre plays, a lot of I don't care plays, mostly on that. I mean, nobody wanted to see the quarterback matchup that we had in that game. Nobody's tuning in there. But I also saw one performance, and I'd be remiss not to say this on this episode because I'm going to stay consistent. Why are we playing Javon Bullard and Evan Williams? And I will shoot holes in that bullshit comment that Matt LaFleur makes and saying we were out of players. I did a quick lookup, and it doesn't take long to do this. Anybody can Google, which my buddy Signetti knows. I win. Google me. But my point is, they had players. We could have come up with 5 guys to play in the nickel. The nickel means 5 defensive backs, correct? Am I right on that? Do I have the terminology correct?
You're correct.
Trevon Diggs was active. Caden Oladapo was active. Jalen Simpson, active. That's 3 if you're keeping track. Shamar Bartholomew was active. That's the 4th. And Jonathan Baldwin was the 5th. The 6th and 7th active defensive backs were Javon Bullard and Evan Williams. Both of them had 21 snaps. That's 21 times 2 too many. I think you give them 10 snaps a bit, and they're on the third and 20s, the plays that you don't have to have Javon Bullard. I mean, as today progressed, it sounds like Bullard's injury is not major, but it's something. It is something. We don't need a something. That game, we could have put the ball boy in there. I don't know the rules well enough to really get too fired up about this, Dilly, on who can you bring up, and it's probably just practice squad guys. I get that, and we have a limited. I think practice squad is 11 guys. Not all 11 are in the secondary, but we do have 5 guys that could have played. Now, maybe somebody was nicked up. Maybe somebody couldn't. You know, I got a sore shoulder or my leg hurts. But boy, oh boy, you put Evan Williams in the crosshairs. Javon Bullard, who was healthy going into that game, now he's less than healthy. I don't care what you say. He's less than healthy. He got injured. He didn't finish that game. I question that. At the end of the day, I text you maybe in the first quarter, man, we got a punter on the back. Yeah. We got a punter. 470 yards of let's call it offense. That was offense.
Right? That was our offense, was the punt. Yep. Yeah, it's hard to know for sure exactly why the safeties played a little bit, and I think part of it probably is a little bit of an attempt to not put guys in complete jeopardy I think they both played mainly deep safety because Oladipo was down in the nickel, which I didn't even know he could do. But I think some of it just had to be like, we could put Baldwin out there for 100, for 70 snaps, some of it out of position from what he's practiced, and he's a practice squad development guy. And maybe, in the sum of all the math, you're thinking if I got a guy or two out there that will clearly not know what they're doing or supposed to do in some situations, I'm not able to evaluate anybody else because, frankly, they're still searching. I mean, I think it was 20, 30 snaps for Trevon Diggs. They might feel okay about what he's given them, but they're not done searching for a guy or two who can play, especially a cornerback. So I don't know. And Baldwin, I think he's been practicing safety, but he was a college corner as well. And maybe, they wanted to get him, some of those guys, some meaningful snaps in a place where somebody else like Evans or Bullard is kind of making the coverage calls and a semi-realistic thing instead of having five guys out there that, have never played and they're, then they end up making the wrong calls and not communicating, and then you just get absolutely zero information from it. I mean, I'm kind of making shit up, but that's the only scenario I can come up with. I'll say I liked what I saw from Sorrell and Oliver and Brenton Cox. And I really thought what you're going to say is, and it's borderline, and we'll see in the playoffs if they pull the trigger on it. And maybe we can only hope that I was partially right, that somehow Rashawn Gary has a nagging, not, like a condition, not an official injury, and maybe some rest will get him a little burst back or a little spark. But, I mean, the Vikings, now they've had their own injuries, and, they're generally playing their best available players. And Cox and Sorrell and Oliver, they had some success, and Rashawn Gary hasn't had any success. So if you take anything out of there where you feel good enough to have them take 5 snaps early in the game and see, hey, if they're getting anything done more than Gary, then this will be the game where all of a sudden Sorrell, especially him, I think he had 8 tackles. He seemed to be all over. I'm sure he was out of position here and there. But if he can give you anything at this point, it's all hands on deck, and that could be, we're digging deep for some positives out of this matchup. But a couple defensive ends had a little bit to make you think if Gary's not getting it done, or they just need, because remember early in the year we'd have those packages, and it wasn't Cox because I think he was injured. But Sorrell and Gabari would be in there together for like 3-4 plays on a drive, and you're kind of like, well, where the hell are Parsons and Gary and stuff? And maybe we can get back to that, and that'll be a little, I wouldn't even say gold, a little bronze or silver in there for the defensive unit.
Yeah. I think before we come off that, Dilly, I think you nailed it. Wow, what a great 360 there. I'm going to pull a couple points out of there. Sorrell earned himself some time in the playoffs. He absolutely earned it. He was the MVP on the defensive side in that game, in a very bad game. I get that, right? And I don't know if we were playing against second string offensive linemen with the Vikings, and I don't care. He made a lot of good tackles on first team running backs, and he was moving well. He's undersized for what we need to stop in the playoffs. I get that, but he's a good change of pace. Side note on this, I've got a side note. I did see today that Devontae Wyatt was practicing and moving fairly decently. Is there a chance that he comes back and plays, or was I just scammed somewhere that it was like older tape or something? Anyway, the real main point that I want to ask you, and I do want to get your thoughts because it makes a difference in the playoffs for the Packers, and we're going to this is just a side note. For what you saw of Trevon Diggs, I also saw social media-wise that the Cowboys are still trolling Stephon Diggs. Like that, hey.
Trevon Diggs, you mean?
Trevon, yeah, sorry. Trevon Diggs, that they were still trolling him after like the first 2 plays, like, hey, soft defense and a 20-yard gain, like something, same shit, different uniform. But did you see enough out of Diggs that gives you some, because I mean, are we really our playoff hopes are honestly in Valentine? Like that's our playoff hopes. If that guy can actually guard, he's shown flashes. I'm not a hater, and he's probably overmatched in most games. But does Diggs give you at least a change of pace, a different color? I mean, a different number jersey, another human? Does he give you any thrill at all going into the playoff game from what you saw on Sunday? That's why we're talking about him.
Couple things. I am almost 100% positive that your Devontae Wyatt scenario was some sort of fever dream or fantasy, that perhaps you dozed off while you were working and came up with that. Although, we'll wait and see. But the one other thing, quick, before I answer your questions, I will say the big boys, Stackhouse and Jonathan Ford, at the bare minimum, we're looking for a body that looked a little bit active as a big man inside, and they got over that bar. They looked like, okay, we have human large bodies that could possibly play some downs if we're getting gashed up the gut, maybe help us. Regarding Trevon Diggs, it was pretty limited. He didn't get a lot of balls thrown to him. I will say that the best thing, the little kernel of hope for him is he came up and made a tough tackle, made a nice strong tackle, and for a veteran, on shaky terms with his team, obviously he was released. So there's a couple different factors in there, but for him to come in a week 18, his fellow starters aren't out there. He's basically just getting a workout in, making sure he can play, recognize, some of the language and the calls. At the very least, he came up and made a tackle in the run game. And to me, that at least says he's taking it serious enough to know that he's got to show something in a Week 18 preseason matchup. That's all you can take from that, is that he perhaps has the right mindset that, hey, they want me to come here and be solid. And hell, if I pick off a few passes, that's fine. But at this point in my career, I just need to prove I'm a professional and I'm serious about playing some football. Glimmer of excitement, or thrill, I think is the word to use. I'd probably stop short of that. Valentine is, boy, he's gonna play still. He didn't, they I don't know if they rested him this game. I mean, I'm sure they just were like, we got to see Bartholomew and Jalen Simpson. We got to see these guys instead of Valentine. But he's a guy that shows up sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't. So maybe he becomes a situational guy. It's like we said, it's all hands on deck. Maybe you rotate things a little bit on long, obvious passing downs and say, we can do a little bit more with Valentine in coverage strictly because he's been here. Unless Diggs really picks everything up very quickly.
At very least, I think Diggs knows where he is, and it wouldn't be an unprecedented thing to happen, Dilly, in the league, that a guy gets a fresh start on a new team and kind of is now clued in the 6 inches between his ears. And then all of a sudden he's decent, right? Like that could very well be. I mean, he hasn't lost his physical tools outside of being injured for a duration of time. His tools didn't fall off in 9 weeks. Like, he still has the tools, but up here is a big factor. So give him a fresh start, give him a chance. I think he has the drive. To your point, I saw him make a few tackles that guys could make a business decision in that game and not make. I was impressed in that sense. I would also stop short of the thrill term in as regards to Diggs. I would not say that I wasn't thrilled with what Sorrell did. Some of those outside defensive ends, that was a thrill. We've got some good young talent, and we probably knew that before. This coaching staff certainly knew that, but we found it out, and we confirmed that, and the fans confirmed that. It's reason to be excited, at least when there wasn't really any excitement needed for Week 18 there. There was nothing to play for.
Let's keep buzzing through these games so we can get to a couple overlying things in the NFL to close out the year, regular season anyway. The Bills, here's what we have to say about the Bills. Josh Allen, baloney, take a snap to continue your starting streak, and then, I mean, no one cares, and no one's ever going to believe it. So just let's move on from that. Play a series, play a quarter, play a half, do something real. That's total fake news. Let's get to the Lions and Bears. That's next up on the docket. I mean, the Bears were gunning for the win. They're really one of the few teams that really went for it. Even the Rams, who played pretty tough, I mean, they still held out Devontae when he was probably ready to play. But let's talk about the Bears and Lions. You know, again, hats off to Bears fans. You just get the W. That's the right mindset. I mean, for the Bears fans that had that mindset, you just get the W. But man, I don't know how many games. And the Packers are a flawed and injured team heading into the playoffs. I don't think you're going to get through the playoffs being absolutely dog turd for 3 quarters of football, especially the first 3 quarters. I mean, sure, I guess if you're only going to play one, you might as well come in hot on the 4th quarter. But I mean, for goodness sakes, the Lions defense hasn't stopped anybody in weeks, and they hold the Bears scoreless forever.
Here's the deal. What we know about the Lions in week 18, you look on week 1 and you look who you have on week 18 if you're in the North, and you hope to hell it ain't the Lions. Because the Lions could go 0-17 and they will win week 18. I mean, I honest to God believe that it was the 80s version of the Lions. If you beat X, it doesn't matter if you win that last game. We're going in with some momentum next year. Like, how many times have Packers been? I know it's been two times in recent history that they've screwed our year with a week 18 win when they had nothing to play for. This year they had nothing to play for, and they just went and they looked good. Now, I also think that the Bears look just as bad as they have all season. Like, this wasn't surprising to me. I mean, Williams is making bad passes. He's getting sacked. He's not throwing on the run when he should, and he's running for 2 yards, or he's throwing when he should run. The offensive line looked a little bit shakier than what I expected. I thought that was a strength. I thought the Bears didn't go to their run game, and maybe the stats look differently than that, but it had that feel that they didn't run the ball. Maybe the Lions were stacking the box. I didn't watch it that closely. But boy, if you're in Bear Nation going into this next week, that's for next episode, but are you feeling good after that game? You can't be. Right? Like, I don't feel, but as a Packer fan right now, I feel just as good. I'll get into depth on the next episode about the playoffs. I feel great. But what version of the Bears are we going to get? Who knows? Is it going to be the version from the 49ers 2 weeks ago? I don't know. That's, and to your point earlier, last episode, we were talking about who would you rather play, the Eagles or the Bears. We all said the Bears because you know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get with the Eagles. But are we sure we're going to get what we think we're going to get against the Bears? I don't know.
I will say you did use a little Dillenberg math there for a second. It'd be 0-16 the Lions could be, and then win week 17. I don't know if that was on purpose, little dig at my math from earlier in the year on my predictions. But in any case, the question I have, and I've been thinking this for a while, and I didn't want to. I brought it up with when I was watching Brosmer play a game for the Vikes, but Caleb Williams is not only, people, the obvious inconsistency that comes up, and, he's brilliant and very generic at times. But I'll break it down even just in the face of a quick pass rush. We've talked about how he's Houdini and he slides around, he's athletic, and then can chuck it amazingly. But at the same time, and I've seen it now, I've seen enough Bears games to know, there's a complete opposite reaction he has sometimes. Yeah, he'll just immediately eject the ball 40 yards out of bounds sometimes at the earliest hint of pressure. And I'm not even saying that's bad. I'm just asking, what is going on? Because at least you can throw it clearly out of bounds, way out of bounds. That's a great out of bounds throw. You don't want to flutter it around and lose a pick once in a while because you're half-heartedly chucking it out of bounds. But there's times when he just has a really hair trigger on chucking it out of bounds. And then there's times where it seems like he's run around for eight seconds, and then he might still whip it out of bounds, or he'll whip it to the sideline for maybe an amazing catch, maybe not. We'll wait and see. But it's interesting to watch enough Bears games to be like, man, he scramble everywhere and get away, or immediately whip it out of bounds.
I thought the same. And I actually came to this realization yesterday watching that game is I believe that he's confused. When he does that, he doesn't see his first read. I think he's like his game is so vanilla. Like his reads, he's not a read. He doesn't read the offense like a Goff, the defense like Goff. He doesn't read the defense like some of those good pocket passers because he's not. And then when it's not exactly how he thought it should be, right, that's laid out, he panics and chucks it. Like that is completely a panic mode because he's athletic enough. If he actually could see and go through his progressions, he would scramble more often. So I think it's actually it shows up here, Dilly, up in between his ears. He doesn't have the capability of being that high end quarterback, which makes me feel good being a Packer fan. I don't think he has the ability to take that next step, that elite step. He's good. He's a good quarterback right now. But I think you have to pair. Go ahead.
So I think if we're want to be clear here, he does get through his reads sometimes, obviously, and when he scrambles, it's because he understands what's happening. But that quick trigger throwaway is his first read. It's not only not open or not there, but something is confusing him, so then he just ejects the ball. It's not like he's never reading the defense or only throws to the first read, but it's if he gets confused, and maybe it's just even in the protection scheme too. It could be protection scheme. If he gets confused or surprised by where the pressure actually ends up coming from, then maybe that's when you get the quick. He doesn't adjust on a second level to a new scenario. It's like he's expecting pressure here. He knows that's his hot read. If it's not there, go here. Pressure comes in a slightly different spot, or they do a little trickeration in the coverage, and then he ejects the ball. That at least that's a logical explanation. So that's a good observation by you. I don't know if you called it an epiphany or a realization, but yeah, that makes more sense than me just wondering if he randomly shits his pants for no reason. I mean, being confused by what they are doing in protection or what the defense is doing in coverage, that's at least something you could learn over time. You could get more comfortable with.
Makes me feel
but
good.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the Bears, I like Ben Johnson after the game. He's proven himself already this year, as much as a first-year coach can. Any playoff win for a first-year coach, huge. Any kind of success they have is really icing on the cake for a first-year operation. But I'm not against the mindset that, hey, we're playing football and we're playing. But, I mean, it's kind of easy to say when you're playing to secure the second seed. Yeah, we played our guys because we wanted the 2 seed. It'd be different if they were locked in to the 4 seed and, maybe next year he won't, they're locked in as the 7th wild card team. Obviously, they won't win the division next year because Packers will. But, we'll see what he says next year if they have no seeding on the line or no playoffs on the line, rest or be tough guys. This year, they were tough guys. Broncos, Chargers, who gives a rip? Chargers sat their players. They obviously didn't care where they ended up. They knew they were going on the road. And the last one I guess second to last one, because we'll have to talk. Patriots demolished the Dolphins. I don't know if we have to recap that much. But Rams, Cardinals, they kind of did a half ski. I think Devontae is really the main guy. They snuck a defender onto the bench for some rest. I think they went all out, and this will be a weird take, but it's week 18 of weird takes, trying to make chicken soup out of chicken poop. I'm impressed by Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals. I mean, they were gunning it. Most of the game they're in there. It got away from them a little bit towards the end. But man, they kept playing. Whenever I watched the Cardinals get their ass kicked, I always got the feeling that they were actually still playing hard and they were in it. I don't know if the players liked the coach. He's gone now, so it doesn't matter. I have no idea what they're doing at quarterback. But I thought, they gave the Rams some fight, and Michael Wilson, I don't know how this guy disappears sometimes because he's had shorter stretches of great play at the receiver position for the Cardinals. This has been a prolonged success. He's a deep ball master. Never thought I was going to talk this much about the Cardinals. Rams get it done. They get a little head of steam going in the playoffs. McVay is typically a guy that benches everybody. Any thoughts on their call to gas it up in Week 18?
Nah, I'm okay. I'm okay actually either way because they were playing the outside of a freak injury or something weird. I'm okay going out there. The Cardinals, they've got some skilled players, so they're going to give you a game, and they've proved that all season, all 17 weeks. They've proved that they're going to give you a game. I agree with your take, and I don't know if I think you said it without saying it. I think Brissett is one of those. He's a guy's guy. I think he's a good teammate. He's a guy that makes everyone around him better by motivating. I think he's a leader. I think he had I think he held that team together when there wasn't much to play for the Cardinals most of the season. Boy, that's a stinker down there in Arizona. And another regime change, another new face, another new program, and there's a lot of question mark there. But I'm okay with the Rams doing what they do because here's the deal: Puka Nacua has shown that he's not going to get injured. Like, he's Mr. Robot Man. Like, he gets hammered and spun around and banged up and pops up and points first down and give me another pass. I'll catch 14 passes in the game. It sounds like a Tuesday to me.
And we get to the complete opposite with the Philadelphia Eagles with a 2 seed to play for. They go exact opposite of the Bears and to some degree the Rams. Exact opposite. Bench everybody and get beaten by a total dog crap operation in the Washington Wizards. And, John Wall couldn't hardly get a first down all year, and now he looks good all of a sudden. But really, I don't know. I think the Eagles, actually, I say that, it seems like they'd want to be the 2 seed because you're getting 2 home games. If you think you're going to win, you're getting 2 home games, and then you got a chance. I think the 2 seed is different than kind of playing for 4, 5, 6, 3 even. It's like, probably going on the road. All likelihood going on the road, but 2 seed, man, you'd think you'd play for that. If there's one team left in the playoffs who's consistently made some runs in the playoffs, have experienced guys, they let Lane Johnson, who's just feels like he played forever on their offensive line. He got to sit out another week. They'll come back healthy. The main problem I see for them is it's an Eagles team that has looked relatively out of sync and not great all year. So to think that they can afford to just rest and get a little healthier, they have played better against, they beat the Bills. That's a good win. But their 3 wins that followed their 3 losses, the other ones were the Raiders in the first game against Commanders. So they didn't really establish that they're back to being the Eagles. So that's my main question with them. Did they do enough to feel good about just kind of falling into the 3? Is it the 3 seed? No, 6 seed, whatever.
I'll answer your question eventually, but I think that move of not playing guys, Dilly, tells me that the coaching staff and the inside the training facility and the coaching staff, they're just as confused about shit as we are. Looking at the Eagles, who are they? They're like, what are we doing? I think the coach is like, I don't know what we're gonna do. So you know what? We're resting everyone. Maybe we'll get this thing in the first round of the playoffs, whoever we play. But the other side note, the other comment I have is, boy, am I tired of seeing the Eagles in the playoffs? I'm tired of them making a run. It's not a fun brand of football. I'm not a hater of Jalen Hurts. I'm not a hater of Saquon Barkley or anybody in their wide receiver room. I think they've got some good players, but I'm just tired of them. I'm glad that they're on the road. I hope they don't win. I don't want to play them. I didn't want to play them. I prefer playing the Bears. It's a kind of a lose-lose situation, as I talked about. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But they didn't do anything, and how could they? Half their team, nobody that's going to be playing next week played, so it doesn't matter. Like what I saw, so I think it just solidified what I see of the Eagles, which is a confused team, a team without an identity somehow. I don't know how a team goes from winning the Super Bowl and 18 weeks later, we're talking about that they're a team not in disarray, but a team in question, right? They shouldn't be a team in question. They just shouldn't. They should.
They
you
have
should
been
know
all year.
clearly who they are.
Yeah. I will say, I from again back to the Packers quick. If you're going to rest everybody, I like what the Packers did. I mean, I know we can debate Bullard and Williams. That kind of stinks that you have to play anybody. If you really could rest everybody, maybe the NFL should, before we get into our big changes in the NFL for regular season, they should make a week 18 rule if they're going to put teams in these situations playing meaningless games at the end of the year. Bring up no limit on practice squad players. Bring all 11 or however, and your international player, your international backup kicker. Bring him up too. But if you can't do that, I like just hand the ball off, just vanilla, and run the clock out. That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Kneel.
Yeah, we talked about kneeling. That'd have been wild. Big excitement game, Ravens Steelers. I mean, you could have kind of taken the first half off, tuned in for the second half. Obviously, we had a lot of attention going on. We had a lot of attention going on the Stag Bowl. That was awesome football, and we'll dedicate the proper amount of time to River Falls Falcons winning the national championship in a standalone episode, or pack it in with the college football playoffs, because that's some of the best football I've seen in a while, to the point I'm thinking maybe I should reevaluate being a WEAC football fan. There's some good schools in Minnesota, just Midwest Division III football. What do I care about Utah State versus, Tulsa? Who gives a shit?
Agreed.
Steelers, Ravens. Boy, talk about a roller coaster ride. I think we're in agreement. We're generally in for our old friend Aaron Rodgers. He invited us on a ayahuasca trip. Haven't locked that in yet. Wife's a little unsure on that. I don't know. I've hallucinated already without any help.
Just committed.
Commit? Okay.
I'm committed.
We're in. Are you doing ayahuasca or the darkness retreat with him?
I would like to do both, but I'm not going to do it in the same year. It was Aaron said not to do it in the same year. That was a mistake. Shouldn't have done it. So I'm going to do ayahuasca first. I'm in. I already booked the train ride and the horse ride in.
Okay. I mean, I've thought about just hanging out in my bedroom for entire days in a row with the curtains closed, but I probably would have the TV on. But I'm like 70% darkness retreat, already qualified. But it's a fun game. We might as well tie it right in to the coaching staffs. I mean, we had Coach on as a Ravens fan representative. This is almost what he suggested some of the fan base would be looking forward to, is tear it all down, start from scratch if you don't make the playoffs. So they get that option. Steelers, conversely, were a missed field goal away from having the same discussion. Tear it all down, get rid of the old guys, get rid of DK because he screwed himself out of guaranteed money. Tomlin's a tired act. Start it all over. In general, I mean, recap the game if you want, but in general, we'll start with these two situations because they're, before we get into the coaches fired, because they haven't been fired yet. Are you, what do you think either result? Do you think Baltimore should be considering it? Do you think the Steelers should have been if they lost?
I mean, Baltimore, quite frankly, Baltimore and the Packers are probably in the same boat with their coaching staffs. Like if so, the Packers were luckily they clinched it, backdoored it in, so we don't have to have the conversation as early. If it's an exit in the playoffs, first round playoffs, I think that's a discussion in Green Bay. It is. It's a national discussion. He's on the hot seat. He being Matt LaFleur. I think it's time for a change for Harbaugh. He has not been bad, but he hasn't been great, and that's what they want. This is a Ravens team that's not. I mean, it's a championship caliber program. All right, so I think you do tear it down. Meantime, Tomlin probably today, it's going to come out tomorrow morning. He signed another 16-year contract. I guarantee it. That will, like, he's locked in through 2039, and he's going to be good, and he's just going to continue to make the playoffs, win the North. Make the playoffs, win the North. Yeah, and now we'll get to this, and it's probably a perfect segue here. They win their conference, and now they're the 4 seed. Congratulations. You're probably one of the worst teams in the playoffs on the AFC side. You just are. I mean, you're dangerous. You're more dangerous than the Panthers on the NFC side, which is the 4th division winner. But, man, I'll tell you what, Harbaugh, it's a tired act. It needs some change there. I think it's a good team. I don't think you can really judge Harbaugh too harshly, though, because he didn't have his quarterback, did he? You know, he didn't. Lamar looked great. Boy, very entertaining game. I was riding high after the Falcons won the national championship, and then I jumped back into this, and I caught the last 4 minutes live, and I'm watching my buddy A-Rod chuck it around, and then I'm watching Lamar flip it for touchdown or for catches, and then Dilly, my big question for you: will we see the kicker loop in the league anymore? Is that? I mean, this poor kid, rookie, and he just blows it. And he's been good. He's been decent this year.
Yeah, 100%. He'll be all right. He'll have every opportunity through 4 to 6 weeks next year just to prove that this isn't something that stuck with him. It was his first miss in the 40-yard range all year. All his other misses were real long balls, and he's got a pretty big leg, which you need nowadays at the kicker spot. I'll just say, and you know, it'll echo what I said about LaFleur when we jumped the gun on that conversation. But if you're a Ravens fan, or frankly for the Steelers, as a Steelers fan, if they lost, I just don't see what's available. Like, you better have a rock solid plan, and I don't know if those guys are there this year, available this year. If you make a big change, get a new defensive coordinator. Get Jim Schwartz. He was a Browns defensive coordinator for a while now. He just got shit canned with the rest of the staff. Bring in a big time defensive coordinator. Steelers, I don't know why they hired Arthur Smith as offensive coordinator. He was baffling in Atlanta. He's a weird guy. He schemes up, you know, it's like 30%, wow, that was creative greatness, and 70%, you know, throw it out and hope Rodgers fix everything. So get an offense coordinator in there if Tomlin wants to stay. I'll tease my LaFleur take. The same as we said before. The thing he has different is that 1 year left on the contract. They're going to have to work it out. So there's some more moving parts there, and we'll see after the Packers win the Super Bowl if you know, they really balk at extending them. Overall, what do you think of? There's 2 takes on this, and I just think it's a gamble that the NFL doesn't necessarily need to lock into every year. The Week 18 divisional matchups, and just the schedule. We'll do that one first. Let's do Week 18 divisional matchups. Is it necessary to risk duds like the Packers and Vikings game when you know if you have that game in Week 14? It's a barn burner. Even this year when the Vikings were a little down, they're still mathematically in it. They still want to stick it to a divisional foe, whichever divisional opponent it is. We're burning for sure intense matchups, fun games to watch, for the chance at divisional matchup that decide, the Sunday night game. That's pretty dicey because those teams were on the brink, especially the Ravens were on the brink of being out of it early in the year. So we almost didn't get that one either. Is it worth it to take that risk and force all the divisional matchups week 18?
Simply, I'm going to answer the question, no, it's not worth it. Because if the NFL cares about viewers, and I actually don't believe they do, I believe that the NFL does not care if you watch that Packers-Vikings game. I don't think they care. I don't think they care if you watch the Lions-Bears game. I don't think they cared. But here's why they should care. They should be pushing that game within the first 14 weeks, as you state. And I think then that doesn't create what the Packers had in their schedule this year, is play the Lions in week 1 and then not play a division foe for like 6 weeks, and then play the Bears and back with one game in between, basically on a 3-game turnaround. You don't push that other game, put that other game in week 6 when it all matters. But what they're trying to do is what it tells me, though, big picture. So they answered your question, no, don't do it. Don't gamble. Don't do that in week 18. But the NFL doesn't have a better answer. They want to play an 18-week schedule. That's what they've decided on. But you're always going to have a stinker. But we don't need 7 stinkers. How many games were in the 12 o'clock window? 6? They all sucked. They all didn't matter. Who cares? So we don't need that. We need the NFC North needs the Vikings rivalry with the Packers to continue. And that was not a rivalry. I know a lot of Vikings fans, they didn't care. We don't care. But we'll still tune in. That's the problem. We're feeding right into the NFL not giving a shit because I still watch the whole flipping game.
Yeah, maybe week 14 is a little even premature, but you could wrap things up in week 16, week 17, and still have, and maybe, however you work out the schedule, maybe you do some of it, but the way they do it and having all the matchups, I mean, you have a good game. Even if it was the Packers-Bears at this point, it wouldn't have mattered. Maybe some seeding for the Bears, again, would have been the only thing. And the Vikings-Lions, I don't know, maybe it would have been more fun. 2 teams with just playing for fun, and not having the Packers rest. But yeah, it seems like you're burning a great matchup with the hopes of a excellent matchup that you can put in a marquee spot. We'll see. I doubt they make any change there. Speaking of the NFL and not caring about fans, I mean, I'm happy for you to get another $1 billion or whatever from Amazon, but do we need? And I don't give a shit. I have Amazon Prime like everybody else. I'm ruining all our shorts with the S-bombs today, but again, who gives a shit? We got Amazon Prime Saturday night. I mean, again, it doesn't matter for me. There's a 93% chance I'm sitting in this chair watching the game, and there's a 6% chance I'm sitting at my nephew's place watching on his TV with Amazon. But there's a 0% chance that I'm going out to really have a good time and socialize at a bar, because I'm not going to spend the time to figure out if they actually have a commercial Amazon subscription and can show the Amazon games. Just being out after golf or whatever on a Thursday in the fall, I'm watching on my stupid phone sitting at the country club because they don't know how to get all the different apps, and it's definitely a burn for the fans. I mean, I kind of like some of the stuff the streaming services are doing and the alternate broadcasts on ESPN. Just do some of that, or give up a little bit of money, get more from TV, do a dual cast and spice it up some other way. But playoff games, Netflix on Christmas? Come on.
Yeah. Well, and that just goes to tell you what the NFL really cares about, and what the NFL is getting is a lot of money from these streaming services. It's a lot of money. It's more money that matters. I'm going to go back to our previous point, Dilly. In my point of bringing up Week 14, the Packers played the Broncos in Week 14. If the Packers played the Broncos in Week 18, even with nothing to play for, the Packers may be playing, that in a different scenario, the Broncos had something to play for. So the Broncos are going to play. Maybe they do. So I would rather see the Packers Vikes play in week 14. That's borderline when the Vikings were done at this point in the season, but you look at the north right now, Dilly, there's 2 9-8 teams. And then the
all
Packers
winning records
at 9-7-1, and then the Bears. And arguably, I looked at the early lines today. Well, dang it, we've got to stay away from the playoffs, but the early line, the Packers are favored in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's been moving around a bit and kind of flipping back and forth. Last topic here, we got to wrap of the NFL season. What's the percent chance? Again, they don't care about us. Do they need to award division winners a home game in the playoffs? I'm 100% on board that they get a game, but we're staring down the pipe of the Panthers hosting a playoff game with a losing record. It's not the first time it's happened. There's been trash divisions. This isn't like, it's a one-time deal. It's been happening where an undeserving team is hosting in the playoffs.
Oh my God, it's 100% on the bullseye. And here's how to fix it, NFL. If the commissioner is listening, which we are sure he is, because we recognize the subscription to it's called NFL Commissioner 2025. We know that that's him. But my point is, it's simple. Yes, the division winners, regardless of record, get into the playoffs. Reseed once the 7 teams are in. Reseed. With the 8 teams, reseed. Overall number 1 is locked. The 2 through 7 are then reseeded by record. In this case, in the NFC, how would that have changed? Correct?
Well, you'd have the Seahawks, Rams, Niners in the 1, 2, 3 spots, and then Bears and Eagles.
But yeah, correct. But then my point is the one still gets the 1. They're locked, and then you reseed 2 through 7. That 7 seed changes, doesn't it? And then it actually, what that does is it creates a reason for the Green Bay Packers to play in Week 18.
Well, it doesn't change the 7 seed. We're still in the playoff. We're still the 7 seed, but that's the only seed that doesn't change. All the other ones, then the Bears got to try to get that win, because otherwise they're looking at going on the road. The Eagles got to try to win. Otherwise they're looking at going on the road without breaking down hypothetical tiebreakers. If they all ended up 12-5, which was perfectly reasonable, then that matters.
Correct.
A lot more.
That fixes our previous point, right? Like, it all reseed, and it fixes the point. Let it play out from there. Win every single game you can. Stop sitting players. Win every game, and then see where the chips fall when the 7 teams are created. And it can be decided. It was decided before that, but the Packers can only help themselves by going 10-7-1. Or I'm sorry, it would have been 10-6-1.
Yeah. Yeah. It might have mattered. NFL making changes. Rest in peace, Pete Rozelle. Who the hell's the commissioner right now? Answer that.
Roger Goodell.
Is it still? Why did I think? I was thinking of Mark Murphy. I was like, didn't Goodell age out yet? Didn't Tagliabue tagged out to Goodell? Yeah, sorry, brain fart, everybody. I was thinking of Mark Murphy aged out. Let's do a wrap here.
That's why I didn't say it. That's why I didn't say it when I was ranting live. So I'll say it when I'm not ranting.
Let's skip breaking down the coaches that are fired, because we don't know who's hired yet. Stefanski's probably the guy that you can pick off early and say he's probably going to get an opportunity if he wants it. I will, just a little teaser, a little quick thought on the coaches. Boy, on NFL Network today, I never thought I'd hear Mike McCarthy's name that much, but apparently he's gung-ho about getting back into the head coaching business, man.
You almost laughed me out of my own episode, of my own, like I'm the co-host, and you almost laughed me out. I was gone. You're going to run solo for the rest of our 5-year contract. You would have ran solo when I said McCarthy. You laughed for 3 straight minutes. Replay the episode.
You wanted McCarthy in Green Bay. That is laughable.
Oh, come on.
I won't survive.
Come on.
Get out of here. You're kicked out. Get out of here.
See ya.